Welcome to Voices of Impact, the podcast for visionary executives, entrepreneurs, or we call soulpreneurs, and leaders ready to step into their authentic power. I'm your host, Meena Ramaswamy, an identity-led coach and strategic consultant. I help soulpreneurs and executives align identity, strategy, and presence to attract aligned opportunities and create real freedom through my sovereign aligned framework. So I'm thrilled to welcome Rose White to Voices of Impact for a conversation rooted in principles that we both deeply value. So Rose White is a faith-driven systems architect, executive leadership strategist, and micro-agency business consultant. She empowers women leaders to reset confidence, realign identity, and build sustainable referral-rich businesses, all without sacrificing purpose or personal well-being. Her multidisciplinary background spans coaching, ministry leadership, higher education, and entrepreneurial consulting, equipping her to help women turn calling into structured offers, scalable services, and aligned revenue systems. So what makes this conversation especially aligned is that we both stand for identity conviction are the foundation of sustainable leadership. And then alignment, focusing on alignment over hustle, produces impact to revenue and legacy. Right. So Rose's work particularly blends business infrastructure with identity, clarity, and conviction, right? Showing women how to lead, build, and scale without burning out. So in this episode, we will dive deep into what truly takes to reset confidence and create systems that protect that purpose. So welcome, Rose. So excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So yeah, I'd love to hear your story. So Rose, tell us about your journey. What led you from your earlier chapters into becoming a faith-driven systems architect for second act women leaders?
Well, I would say pretty much my journey has, if it was a book, it's been chapters by chapters. Because I've served in ministry for over 40 years, then with education, working professionally in the medical and finance, where all of that was faith-based. Even with my coaching and consulting is faith-based. But, I kept seeing powerful women reach midlife transitions without any kind of structure to carry their calling. And so I became what I believe was a calling that was faith-driven and to help to become a designer of women, helping them to translate the wisdom that was on the inside along with their experiences and their calling and bringing them into something that could generate, I would say, impact, as well as income without them being totally exhausted.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
And when you have that calling, it just hits you, right? Like it's a very different feeling. And you're kind of focused on having that linear path. I have to follow the traditional, but then you get a signal from God or the universe saying like, this is what you're meant to do. This is your why. And you go for it. And it just turns life upside down. It makes so much easier, right? You talk about ease and, overcoming burnout. It's just so much easier when you lead from faith, right? And then alignment over hustle. I love
Absolutely.
how that you shared your journey. So thank you so much. And
Thank
what
you.
personal challenges with confidence or conviction did you face that now you help your clients overcome?
When it comes to personal challenges, I would say I had to overcome visibility hesitation. I've always been one that I do a lot of the work, but not looking to be seen, always doing from the back. And so I always hesitated when it came to being seen because I wanted to be able to provide a gift, but not look for somebody to look at me because didn't need the pats on the back. And so overcoming that hesitation of visibility and that pressure to prove myself instead of serving. So now what I try to do is help women to stop proving themselves, but start owning who they are. And I
Exactly.
believe that is a large portion of my why, especially when it comes to women.
Right. And I love that. I love what the work you do. It's very similar because I also had visibility blocks for a while and I had to overcome that for
Yeah.
some time because I was always in the back. I loved writing and, I started as an introvert, now an ambivert into
Yeah.
extrovert. And I was like, I'll just start writing. Like writing was my passion. And then I can kind of relate to the visibility blocks. A lot of people I've talked to recently have had that.
Yeah.
but to
Yeah.
share a really nice message of own your voice, own your power, be unapologetic. So
Yes.
thank you so much for inspiring women out there. This is awesome. And going into that overcoming challenges piece. So if someone is paralyzed by fear or imposter syndrome, like how do you help a woman? Like what's the first step they need to take? If they are like, yeah, there a lot of like executive women, for example, want to get into visibility, but like, logic stops them and they're called to do something bigger, but it's just they're paralyzed. What would that first step be?
Well, that's one of the top questions because the greatest paralysis of anyone, and especially us as women, is fear.
Yeah,
And so I start with identity. We've got to know who we are. And until you understand who you are, you can't even begin to move with a type of strategy
right.
because fear literally cripples you.
Yeah,
Fear reduces us when we don't know who we are. And so when that clarity comes, when it begins to increase, then all of a sudden now your purpose comes forth. And so my desire and goal has always been to help women, help to define who they are,
mhm,
and not who who they were, but who they are right now. It's
right.
not about who I was yesterday, but who
Yeah,
am I today?
yes,
Who am I
exactly.
becoming right now?
Right, right. I love this. I love what you said the last part. And yes, it's really about who you are. And
Yeah.
to reiterate and emphasize this is you have to know who you are first
Yes.
internally
Yes.
before the strategies. So excellent point. Also being identity led, driven
Yeah.
entrepreneur. So a lot of people just get to the strategy piece thinking like,
Yeah.
oh, they're focused on whether that's revenue or getting leads, it's the logic. But once you get to know yourself and go with that faith and that mission, the rest just falls into place.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
that's what's very important. I love how you talked about identity work and then becoming, right? It's the
Yeah.
becoming and it's difficult, right? So what
Yeah.
are some, tips or strategies would you share if someone's in that messy middle that like, I feel like I'm getting there, but it's almost, but it's not quite there into that when they're actually becoming, right? So they're kind of in that transition period for identity work.
Well, the thing is, if it was, to think about tips, find out exactly again who they are, but what is it that they want to do? What is their conviction?
Right.
Because without conviction, then what happens, we'll begin to abandon our vision. We
Mhm.
sometimes we're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And so my thing is to help to look at regulating even their environment. What type of environment are they in? How is their schedule? Because sometimes you need to regulate some things in your life,
Yeah.
your environment, your schedule, your self-talk. And that has been my number one thing, even for me
Right.
personally. And so as a woman, I understand that we sometimes wear lots of hats. And
Mhm.
so the thing is, if we can just learn how to regulate what's around us, look at our schedule so that we don't become overwhelmed, and then be careful with the words that we say because words are powerful. Even scripture tells us we have the power of life and death in the tongue. So what are we saying? So we got to regulate the words that comes up out of our mouth.
Mhm. Exactly. And
Yeah.
yes, nervous system regulation is not really talked about. We don't speak about it. A lot of people don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
it is very important for
Yeah.
whether it's women or men, but especially for women.
Right.
Right. And this is something I had to learn recently. Right. So I would think differently. My environment would be something else.
Yeah.
So kind of just saying no to things that are misaligned. Right. So
Yes.
I had to say no to, I just set some boundaries. So these are some things, right, that we have to reset,
Yeah.
recalibrate. Right,
Yeah.
and take the time to do it. So really slow down. That's what I keep saying, slow down to speed
Yeah.
up. So just like speed up and going 90 miles per hour because as high achieving women, whether executives or founders, it's all about being a go-getter.
Yeah.
Right. But if you just take the time to slow down and understand what that looks like,
Yeah.
right? So what are the habits I need to shift? What are the mindsets I need to shift? It
Yes.
makes a huge difference. And then doing that consistently.
Absolutely.
Consistently. So going into these three things. reset, which we just talked about stabilizing, and we'll talk into realign and then revenue. So reset. So basically, can you share an example of a client who radically shifted their outcomes after changing their inner standards? So how did that conviction shift, and then what changed and why?
Well, this literally took place as a reality not too long ago because I had a young lady that had issues with setting prices. And a lot of times we all struggle with that,
Yeah,
And so she raised her prices.
amazing.
And, I told her, you've got to understand your value. You're
Right,
valuable. And so she raised her prices. I told her to begin to focus on one service because sometimes we're trying to do 5, 10, 15 different things. For me, I'm a visionary, so I'm constantly creating in my head.
right,
But I had to explain to her, focus on one service, have a clear offer, raise your price because there's value there, and stop undercharging. And when she did that, because she struggled with that at first, but
right.
when she did that, she became so confident in what she charged. And so when she saw her value differently, my goodness, her income came right with it.
Nice.
Because again, you mentioned something, mindset. And so when we can see ourselves, know that we are valuable, what we're providing is value, that it is going to provide something that people need. Don't be afraid, to set your price and
Mhm.
then stop trying to do 1,000,001 things, but become sharp in one thing, become powerful in that, increasing your value, your knowledge, and helping others. And it will definitely make a difference. And so I did see that in her particularly.
Amazing. You know how important this is? Because I was at a time when I struggled with that. I think a lot of people still struggle.
Yeah.
And it all came down to money mindset, right? And
Yeah.
as women of color, I think I
Yes.
can speak to a lot of people who are watching right now.
Yeah.
I had societal conditioning, family conditioning, right? Because
Right.
I come from that family where you had to you have to hoard it, save it all the time. No one was an entrepreneur in my family, so corporate, let's just, yeah, use that money for $6,000 for vacation. But I was like, no, I'm going to invest in myself, right?
Right. Right.
So it's a different way of thinking that money is energy,
That's
right? And it
right.
took me a long time to get to this, right? So kind of having these conversations from someone who's lived it, and finding that in your, client and helping that out is so powerful. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing this. And of course, with the offer, I've seen many people have it's nice to have so many offers, but that is what my mentor said. And that's what I
Yes.
recommend is having one offer that's the blue ocean, that
Yes.
1% of what really makes you unique, right?
Right.
In your niche. So
Right.
absolutely. And I love seeing that you've created such a powerful outcome and transformation for your client. So
Thank you.
kudos to you. So going into specifically that messaging. So when creating that offer, so what are the most common mistakes leaders make when trying to communicate their new identity or offer after a transition?
My goodness. One of my problems was, and it helped me to help others, we feel like we got to explain everything to death.
Mm.
We're constantly over explaining over
Oh,
and over, trying to get the
yeah.
message across. Or everything today is about branding. And sometimes
Yeah.
we can even go overboard with that. Or another, I would say, mistake that I learned myself and what I've seen so many others do, and that's trying to serve everybody.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I teach, even when it comes in business planning, you need to know your audience.
Yeah.
You need to know who your market is. Rather than trying to serve everybody, find out exactly who your market is and focus on them, because that is definitely I believe is a common mistake. And it is a quick way to get burned out, let down, because you may not be the best that you could possibly be, because the people you're trying to reach is not the people that you should be looking towards reaching.
Absolutely. Knowing your audience and an audience that really aligns, right? And I think I want to emphasize this because we tend to go to anyone and say yes and get on calls because we want that revenue. We want
Right.
results quickly. But this is something that I learned a huge lesson is before you get on a call with anyone, whether that's sales or a potential client, first of all, build the relationship. Trust is a huge factor. And that comes with the identity piece. So, like you said, know who you are, know your values, right? So, if you really value, connection, collaboration, and trust, you want to lead with that,
Yeah.
right? So, really know yourself and make
Yeah.
sure that it's aligned.
Right.
So look at what your energy, how do you feel? So going back to the nervous system, when you talk to someone, a potential client or a lead, the audience, do you, like us on paper, it sounds nice, right? So even if you get the leads on paper, it's like, yeah, like their profile is great. This would be a client I want to talk to. But when you talk to them, they're like pushy or they're not coachable. So these are some signs. And we look
Yes.
at it logically, but it's really about how you feel. Do you feel energized? Do you feel like you want to really work with this person? Or do they want to level up? And it's not about working, it's really about partnering or collaborating, right?
Right. Right.
So it's coming from a place of not selling or like pushing, but just
Right.
like, hey, how can I help this person see their potential that I feel like I can, guide them to get there, right? So
Right.
coming from that serving place when finding your client. So these are kind of the mistakes that I've been seeing because after transition, that new identity, you want to make sure you're consistent with that new identity, new values, and not go back to your past identity. So there's a visualization where it's like the old serving. I think my mentor was telling me this, like serving Susie versus joyful Juliet. You want to make sure you're in that joyful Juliet. If you go back to serving Susie or fearful Fiona, it's like you're going to be getting a lot of different misalignment, right? So
Yes.
making sure consistently in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that's a huge piece. That's a
Yeah.
huge piece. So having a mentor hold you accountable or coach or showing up and holding yourself accountable because
Yes.
from your why, from your serving, which is a very important key piece of all of this, right?
Yes.
When creating your offer, your messaging. So going into the magnetic messaging. So making sure you talk about those values, you talk about the identity. So all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing all of this.
Thank you.
Also, so going into the practical systems though. So we have the identity piece, the nervous system, but of course we need the systems in place
Yeah.
or else we need both to thrive, right?
Right.
So how do you help high value women or soulpreneurs, entrepreneurs create a weekly rhythm that reliably produces conversations and consults?
I think that what I have found, and even now, I'm sort of working on that even to this day. I try to make sure that after, you've created your system to generate leads, you've got to now be able to block out enough time, adequate time in the week, to know how many, conversations you need for that week. And for me as a content creator as well, knowing, okay, how much do I have to put out? So I try to help, especially women that are high volume. I want to try to help them to block out their time during the week to know exactly what is it that they need to do every single week. Not just posting, but literally people that they are actually in front of,
Right.
talking to directly on a weekly basis, because that can really help to create a good weekly rhythm.
Exactly.
For me, every day, I have a certain number of people that I'm talking with every single day, and I try to help others to be able to find that as well during the week to block out that time.
Amazing. Amazing. And absolutely. Knowing your limits, setting boundaries.
Yeah,
So, like you said, max like 5 a week, right? And if someone does want to have it on a Friday and you're booked, it's okay to say no, coming back to
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And having a weekly rhythm, yes. So, first of all, having the tasks and managing your time, but
yeah,
also managing your energy. So, going back to that.
yeah.
So, running and building your business based on your rhythms, right? So, for women, I know some of them are going through menstruation, menopause, their ups
Yes,
and downs. And I've had a lot of people come to me with the menopause piece and they're
yes,
still entrepreneurs. I'm like, rest when you need to, right? You don't,
yes.
if you don't feel like posting, don't post, right? And
Right.
this is something I started to do because
Yeah,
I was also a point of like, I have to post today, right? I used to be like that. And I was like, it just wasn't magnetic, right? Coming into the magnetic messaging, it just wasn't like
yeah,
bringing any audience, it just didn't work versus, hey, like if let me feel into it. So I did
yes,
for example, I did a solo episode, my first one, on Voices of Impact on Sunday. And I was like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Rather than forcing myself, I was like, let me feel into it. So I listened to my intuition. I was like, do I feel energized today? Do
Yeah.
I want to share this message today? And it was about dimming my light, sharing a little piece of a story. And, it just worked out really well. It came out really well because it was from within,
Yeah.
right? So building your business or content or your marketing strategy from, yes, those time management tasks,
Yes.
but from a rhythm of energy.
Yes.
Right. So whenever you feel like it and you get that, like the inspiration hit also, right? So that new identity. So kind of build it from your new identity, from not your old identity. And
Right.
you're going to have people who will kind of reflect and mirror the old identity. But you want to, like I said, going back into, you have to keep the new identity in mind. So this is something that I want to share with everyone is I have like a weekly CEO reset every single morning. I go back and I read my manifesto, right? So my new identity manifesto saying like, I'm going to lead with this. The old one is gone. And right today, especially is the year of the horse. So that's what it's for. We're going into transition. So always read that in the morning,
Yeah.
right? So have the affirmations ready to go. And it's easy. You get that creativity,
Yeah.
inspiration going. So,
Yeah.
absolutely. And another question I have. So, what are the three non-negotiable systems? Like you talked about referral-rich, so which is amazing. What are the three non-negotiable systems a referral-rich micro agency needs?
The non-negotiable systems. I think that's going to definitely be what I look at was one of the things that I mentioned earlier, and that's dealing with your leads. You've got to have some type of system where you can generate those leads, where people are coming in and you have people that you can talk to. Another non-negotiable system is definitely having people to referring to you. And not only when they refer to you, but knowing that you can follow up. You've got to have some type of system to help you to stay on target, to follow up with those referrals that you received, but also knowing that the people in whom you have met with or talked to, that is no longer just a talking to, like for me as a coach and consultant, but I need to see that consultant time now being converted
Right,
into actual service time.
right.
So
Amazing.
those to me would be my top three non-negotiable systems
Yeah,
for what I would need.
absolutely.
And
You want
that's
to
what I
have
would
it.
teach others that they need to
Yeah.
have as well.
Exactly. So building trust through nurturing, right? So like
Yeah.
you said, having that nurturing sequence, leads, like first get to know them, right? So
Yeah.
someone just asked me like, hey, can you just send a proposal? And I was like, no, right?
Yeah.
Before I sign up for that, I want to get to know you.
Yes.
I want to build the trust. And
Yes.
also, they're not just evaluating you, you want to evaluate them. So going back to quality over quantity.
Yes.
And I'm having email sequence, right? So the
Oh,
email sequence doesn't have to be like super amazing, perfect, right? Once a week, having
yeah.
a newsletter, get them into your inner world, like get them to know what you do, how you are as a person, right?
Yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
about I do this work. Like, what are your beliefs? Like, talk
Yeah.
about the new identity, talk about your new values. Just kind of bring them into your world, give them value, like a free lead magnet, right? Something that really is valuable for them. Put them in the spotlight. It's all about them, right?
Yes. Yes. The
And these
hot
are
seat.
some, yes, yes. Build a community. I've been realizing community is a huge piece of my
Yeah.
new identity, right? So I'm also in that shift of identity,
Yeah.
and I realized community is a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
On National Women's Day, I will be spotlighting a lot of women leaders. So it's just
Wow.
powerful having these conversations. So it's kind of doing something that comes from your heart,
Yeah.
be more creative, right? So it doesn't have to be just sending a newsletter or email marketing sequence, right? It could be
Right.
anything. I work with someone and she's a business coach and she creates like her own little Facebook group and they made it into like a nice lounge, right? So this
Wow.
is something I want to tell people is when you bring them into your world as you're nurturing, kind of showcase how would they feel if they were
Yeah.
going to work with you, right?
Right.
Let them feel like they're on top of the world,
Wow.
right? So that's what you want them to feel because that's what
Absolutely.
they're going to look at. They're going to buy from you because of your energy and your presence, not just the work to do, right? So these are some tips that I would also say. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going into, okay, so let me see. So, what practical faith aligned shifts helps leaders move from scarcity based decisions to abundance based action?
I believe that just their confidence that they have. If I make sure that I heard your question right, I would think that when it comes to shifts, because I'm a woman of faith, I allow my faith to guide me,
Right.
and so I believe that anything that's dealing with movement has to be based on your faith.
Yeah.
Faith guides us. And what happens when faith guides us, then that's when now strategy takes and build on that faith.
Right.
And then with that, because my thing is I trust in God in everything that I do. I don't
Right.
move out in anything unless I feel led to do so. And so there's going to be a structure that comes with that, because having faith will also not only give you a strategy, but now once that strategy comes, there's a structure that's created. And that structure is what's going to hold everything together, because there has to be a structure like building a house. I use that a lot of times.
Yeah.
Building a house, you have to have a foundation. Once that foundation is set, now you can begin to build on the building. And so for me, my foundation is my faith. And I try to encourage that in others. That to me is just practical.
Right. Wow. This is so beautiful. So I can relate to everything you're saying. And when you lead with faith, you don't have to worry too much about strategy, but that strategy will be given. And then, like you said, you have to work on that. I also use the house piece of it. You need the foundation. And like you said,
Yeah.
the foundation is the faith. It's the identity piece. And then you build on that. And I do agree. It's definitely a difficult shift,
Yeah.
especially so I can relate to this completely. And to get into abundance based, you do have to let go. So
Yeah.
surrendering to God, universe, whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, especially if you've been in survival mode,
Yes.
for a long time. But knowing that you are supported by the universe. So technically, the universe is, I think of it as my father figure, right?
Yeah.
So anytime you need something, and I've seen this happen for myself, whether it's money, I just ask and be like, let it go.
Yeah.
So recently I had a conversation that when it's the house, so do not worry about how it's going to happen and when, have faith and lead with their heart, lead with their intuition. It's going to take some practice though, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy, but just really focusing on serving and the rest will come. This is something that I want to put out in the universe for women is, we tend to lead with logic, but lead with intuition. The logic will come. It might not come when you wanted it to, right? It's just, it could come in the divine timing. Right. So,
Absolutely.
but it's not easy, right? It's not easy. And I want to keep saying that. But at the same time, we think of it as not easy going back to that mindset shift. It is easy when you know that you don't need a person or anything else. It's within you and you know that the universe is helping.
Right. Right.
Love how you say that. And that's where the abundance comes in. Um, Rose, I'm pretty sure you have a lot of abundance opportunities knocking at your door. I've had so many. We're having this conversation. So did I know that this is going to happen? Right.
Right.
So, right.
Right.
So it's just, I'm grateful kind of
Yes.
learning these things from, of course, you, I'm still learning, and from everyone else. So I'm
Right.
grateful. So I'm glad that we can put
Likewise.
this out in this world.
Yeah.
It's super needed because I wasn't taught any of these, right?
Right.
So in my family was logic.
Yeah.
Why am I starting this business? Why am I doing that?
Right.
But
Right.
I don't let it waver. It's always me and God and the universe. And it's been going very well. That's all
Absolutely.
I need.
You said that. I do want to just add in there. I believe that, and I teach this even in my faith groups, and
Yeah.
that is you have to always remain teachable and coachable. And the
Yeah.
moment that you can stay in that place, I mean, there's so much that then begins to come. I don't understand it all. I don't
Right.
know it
Yeah.
all. But I'm going to remain teachable, because all
Yeah.
that I know is not all there is to know. There is somewhere that I can learn, somebody that's coming that I'm going to be able to gain a little something extra
Exactly.
from. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you always gain inspiration from
Yeah.
everything. Even the conversations I've had, it's been very inspirational. And thank you and every guest who comes on this because it energizes me. And I realize it kind of reflects on why I'm doing this. Right. So
Yes. Yes. Thank
Amazing
you.
conversation. And for someone who's in corporate, but they want to start a consulting, which I've come across a lot of women, and they want to start something similar to what you have done, a referral-rich micro agency. So what are the first 3 moves you would recommend? Like small steps they could take?
Anytime you're going to start a new venture, you need to always be clear on, again, it's going back to first knowing who you are, what you're capable of doing, where your passion is, what you enjoy doing. That's your first move when you get ready to leave corporate. When I left, the corporate arena, I had to really know who I was and what my passion was. And so that's the very first move. Be clear on that, very clear,
Yeah.
because if not, then you may have some heartache later. But the second thing is, building again that one offer. When I came out of corporate, I was already beginning to work and define what it was that I wanted to do. And I made sure it wasn't had nothing really much. Of course, we want to make money, but it wasn't so much of the money, was where was my passion? What is it that would cause me to want to continue to do a thing every single day or as often as I could? And so I had to build that one particular thing, which was at that time mortgages and into real estate. And so the third thing I would actually say to someone that is about to leave the corporate arena, and that is building, you said something earlier, it's all about your relationships, developing good relationships, because you're going to need people in whatever that you do. And so when you develop positive relationships, it all comes through being able to communicate, having great conversations, people getting to know you. Again, that trust factor, the confidence that people have in you, because now what happens is that now they're going to refer you. Because when I started my business, I was able to then start talking to people. I was talking to men and women from all walks of life, including attorneys, that those particular individuals in high places then came on board with me and did a lot of work for me. And then they referred other people to me, but it was all because I had developed a relationship, and so they started referring people to me. So, and you want to be able to have good conversations, and you want to learn how to do that quickly when getting to meet people. So again, being clear about who you are, having that confidence in what it is that you're doing, have a passion for that, understand your why, develop that effectively, and then knowing how to communicate well with other people, because people are going to refer people to you. And in business, especially if you're looking at generating resources, you're going to need people, and you're going to need people that's going to refer people to you. So that's what I
Exactly.
would recommend.
Amazing. Absolutely. You just really nailed it, every single piece, right? In a nutshell. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, just really building the relationships is so key. It's
Yeah.
integral. And then, of course, I think we do like the ikigai. So I want to kind of talk about that. I do this for all of my clients, is like the kind of intersection of like, hey, can you make money? But also, is it the passion?
Yeah.
Right. And then why you want to do this, your vision, your voice. So also, what's your voice? What do you want to put out there? Right. And then
Right.
once you get super clear, this is something that I had to learn. Because I was the go-getter, right? I just focused on strategy. And this is what
Yeah.
I learned from my coach. And he was like, you want to make sure you have the conviction, right? It's one thing, because if you skip over, you might have one, but you might not have the other. But
Yeah.
it's actually first, literally, like you said, that conviction, confidence, knowing yourself. Because if you just go straight to the offer, it just doesn't work. It's
No.
going to fall
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah.
So I just keep repeating this, right? So absolutely, right? So
Yeah.
these are the main 3 things. Obviously, you can go way deeper into this, but once
Yeah.
you have these 3 set, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who say like, hey, you need a website. No,
No.
like, of course that's nice, but don't start with a website, because I know that's the advice I got when I
Yeah.
first started, like build a website,
Yeah.
have a store,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
have a
Don't just spend a lot of
CRM.
money.
Yeah, have a CRM, get your leads like quickly. And I'm like, okay. And then have like 2 offers, right? So
Right.
it was just like, That's what I learned. And I was
Yeah.
like, do I need a website? So I was taking about so many months just to build a website when I
Yes.
didn't even know these things.
Yes.
So for every founder who wants to start something, this is your, blueprint to success. Of course, from Rose and someone who's like similar, doing something similar. So thank you so much for this conversation. And I'd love to go into the rapid fire round and get to know you personally. So a quick kind of just an answer that comes to mind. Let's see. Morning coffee or evening tea for creative energy?
Morning. Have to have that morning coffee.
Amazing. Yes, absolutely. Awesome. Okay. So, a book, movie, or song that always inspires your leadership energy.
A book. One that I would create or
Just kind of that you have, or you're reading, or you're listening to a song, or you watched a movie. Just kind
um
of helps you.
there is a book, and it is I Took Back My Crown in the Dark Without Applause, Validation, or Permission.
Mm, I can read that book. So,
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, I wrote it, and so I'm living it.
yes,
I took
yes.
back my crown.
Love it. I'm going to read your book. So, please, yeah, send the link over and everyone read her book for sure. And we need to promote your book, by the way. That's a different story. So for International Women's Day, like I'm feeling inspired here. So thank you.
You have inspired me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. This is a question I was asking this question through Galentine's Day with my bestie. So, but one guilty pleasure that makes you feel human and grounded.
One guilty pleasure?
Mhm.
Chocolate ice cream.
Oh my God. Yes, yes. I mean,
Which I don't need that, but I just enjoy that. That is a
yeah.
pleasure.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you said this. Ice cream. I just had a chocolate mousse the other day. I was like, I'm like guilty about this
Yeah,
at all. So love how you said like chocolate ice cream.
I had to add
Go
that
for
in there.
chocolate. Way to
Yeah,
go, Rose. Way to go. I love this. I love that energy.
thank
And
you.
yeah, so one bold move you're calling in next for your own growth or business. So what's that vision like for you? What's next?
It's basically being able to take what I'm doing and wanting to literally scale it where it become a framework that can become global. And it'll come through referrals, people that I'm meeting. And right now I'm dealing with a lot of people from other countries on other continents. So I really want to be able to scale this where it's something that I'll be able to build globally.
Amazing. Likewise here. So globally, it's just everyone just has amazing perspectives, the cultures from different people and
Yeah.
different parts of the world. It's
Yes.
just magical, so bringing everyone together. So
Yes.
excited for you. I hope it becomes successful.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today, energy, and practical insights. I love how this conversation reminded us that true leadership starts with identity, conviction, and systems are important, but that honor both your purpose and well being and your why, right? So, for listeners, take a moment after this episode to reflect what part of your confidence or identity business could use a reset, right? What systems or habits could protect your energy while helping you show up fully? So, as for me, I'm stepping into the next phase of Sovereign Rise Collective, where I'll be guiding visionary leaders to clarify, align their strategy, identity, and create actionable paths. It's going to be also just everyone contributing together as a community, right? So we'll be diving into real-time practices that integrate these sustainable growth without the burnout. So if this conversation resonated, stay tuned. Exciting things are coming. I can't wait to see how you apply these insights from Rose to your own journey. So follow Voices of Impact to continue exploring what it truly means to lead with clarity, conviction, and aligned influence. See you soon.
Bye-bye.